Hi, I'm Daniel Andrews, owner and creator of AndrewsFootball.com. Welcome to my NFL mock draft. If you're new to my channel and you haven't done it already, there's a button right around here. See it, see it, see it. Bam! Hit that button. Become one of the greatest people on planet Earth. Don't forget to ring that bell for all my NFL mock draft coverage. Now, today we're going to break down what the Washington Redskins are going to do with the second pick in the 2020 NFL Draft. Let's break down the Washington Redskins options here. And the first option is the trade down. Now, if you're not aware, the Washington Redskins gave up what ended up being the 34th pick in the draft. Last year, they gave up the second round pick. In this year's draft, to trade up to pick number 26 to get Montez Sweat. Now, when you're a team rebuilding, giving up the 34th pick in this year's draft, it's a big deal. So the very first thing the Washington Redskins are going to do is try to get a king's ransom for the second pick in the draft. And when you look at viable trade candidates right here, number 3, Detroit, I don't see them trying to get up to 2. The New York Giants, of course, the Giants and the Redskins are in the same division. As a general rule of thumb, teams don't like trading within the division, so I don't really think the Giants are going to try to trade up to 2. But at number 5, you got the Miami Dolphins, and that's where you could see a trade happen here. If you're using the draft trade value chart, the second pick in the draft is worth 2,600 points. Well, the Miami Dolphins, which have the 5th and the 18th picks in the first round, that equals exactly 2,600. So the Miami Dolphins have the draft capital in order to get up to number 2. And believe me, the Washington Redskins would love to have the 5th and the 18th pick in the first round. The 6th pick in the draft belongs to the Los Angeles Chargers. They're also a viable trade option here. But the issue is with the Chargers is they would have to give up future draft picks. You're looking at 2021 and possibly 2022 draft picks in order to get up to 2. In my opinion, the Dolphins and the Chargers are really the only two teams that could and would really want to explore trading up to the second pick in this year's draft. And you've probably been hearing a lot of Tua going to Washington with the second pick and Washington not being happy with Dwayne Haskins. This is a complete smokescreen. This happens every year in the NFL draft where teams put out all sorts of false information to try to get that value to go up. And that's ultimately, when you hear Tua going to Washington, that's just basically a smokescreen trying to drive that value up for the second pick. Because like I said, option 1 for Washington is to trade down, but you've been hearing a lot of talk. So option 2 for the Redskins would be Tua. The third option that you could do, because they're letting Trent Williams seek a trade, is taking a left tackle here with the second overall pick. My number 1 tackle is Jedrick Wells out of Alabama, but you know, you may like Tristan Wirfs or Becton better. I like Wells. He's my number 1 left tackle. You could draft him. He's a plug and play guy. Throw him in there at left tackle. Get what you can out of Williams. Ideally, they're trying to get a second. They probably won't, but is he worth a second? Absolutely. That's another option that you could go. The fourth option you could get a skill position player at number 2. My number 1 corner is Okudah. I got Judy and CeeDee Lamb basically neck and neck. Judy's my number 1 wide receiver, but CeeDee Lamb's close second. Both these guys would come in and be instant upgrades to the wide receiver position. But basically, you need a corner, you need a wide receiver. Okudah, Judy, Lamb, they're all viable options here. And then the 5th and final option of what you could do if you're the Washington Redskins is take the second best player in the draft, my number 2 player overall, and that's Derek Brown. You have a defensive-minded coach, so you usually want to build from up front, and Derek Brown's just an absolute monster. Ron Rivera's last year in Washington, they ran kind of a hybrid 3-4, 4-3. They did the same thing in Washington. So a player like Derek Brown's an excellent fit because you can put him at defensive end in your base 3-4 package, move him inside to defensive tackle in a 4-3. He can also play in your base nickel package as a defensive tackle. And and he's just an absolute stud. You have the second pick in the draft. He's my second rated player, so that also makes sense there, but I think that would be extremely unlikely. A wild card here at number 2 would be Isaiah Simmons. But here's the thing here. In this defense, Simmons would be a middle linebacker, maybe an outside linebacker, but he's an outside linebacker. He's not a pass rusher. So I don't think, because he's not really a pass rusher, I don't think he really presents good value with the second overall pick. But he is athletic enough that they're going to give some consideration to. I wouldn't be surprised they bring him in to interview and to talk to, and I wouldn't be surprised that when Clemson's pro day after several Washington Redskins scouts. So basically, to summarize here, the Redskins' options at number 2 are really limitless. I think the first thing that they really want to do is trade down, and that's what the Redskins are really wanting to do. That's their number 1 option. Option 2, you've heard the Tua talk. It's complete bullshit, but you've been hearing about it a lot. Of course, they're trying to get that value up so they can trade that number 2 pick and get as much value for it as you possibly can. So you are going to hear more and more of this Tua talk. It's a complete smoke screen. Option 3, of course, is a left tackle, because you're letting Trent Williams walk. You need somebody to replace him. There's probably going to be about 5 tackles that are going to go in the first round. Wells is my number 1 tackle, but whether you like Becton or Wharfs, either one of those guys are awesome options. Andrew Thomas is another guy who's a plug-and-play guy. You can put in there in left tackle, and you can win with these guys. Take a skill position, Okudah, Judy, Lamb. Any one of those guys instantly improves your team. I think all 3 of those guys would be Pro Bowl caliber players day 1. And then you could also take who I have as my second rated player in the draft is Derek Brown. Since he's my second rated player, you're picking second. He would be an excellent fit, but out of all the players I've listed, he would be my final option. Of course, Isaiah Simmons is a wild card, but I think it's extremely unlikely that you take him at number 2. Ultimately, I don't see the Redskins getting a trade offer that they really like, and they will be forced to select a player with the second pick in the 2020 NFL draft. So with Andrew's football mock draft, I have the Washington Redskins with the second overall pick, selecting Chase Young, defensive end out of Ohio State. Now, this is my number 1 player, so this is a good value pick. Even though you're picking at 2, you are getting the best player in the draft. And him and Montez Sweat as opposing defensive ends in a 4-3 or in a base nickel is a lot of fun. Ryan Kerrigan, who's a really good football player, will be 32 when the season starts. And despite having double-digit sacks between 2016 and 2018, he only had 5.5 sacks last year. He battled some injuries. I think that when you draft Chase Young, there's a chance that Ryan Kerrigan may get traded draft day or shortly afterwards. There's a possibility he may even get traded mid-season. If Washington's having some sort of fire sale, you may want to get rid of him like the Falcons did with Mohamed Sanu last year. But more than likely, what I think will happen is that you'll see Kerrigan, Young, and Sweat all play together at various times, and then in 2021, Kerrigan will move on, and hopefully you have some really good bookends in Sweat and Young for years to come. Now, I do want to caution people, because I've seen a lot of social media posts expecting Chase Young to be the next Aaron Donald. Both Bosa brothers, when they were drafted by the Chargers and 49ers respectfully, had considerable more talent in the front 7 surrounding them that Chase Young will have here at Washington. So if you're a Chase Young fan or a Washington Redskins fan, and Chase Young ends up being a Redskin, I want you to temper your expectations, because both Bosa brothers had a lot more talent surrounding him than Chase Young's going to have. So I don't think Chase Young's going to come out and be the same type of game changer that either Bosa brother is, and of course Aaron Donald, the best defensive player. I don't see Chase Young having near that type of impact his rookie year, but as time goes on, I would expect him to be a Pro Bowl caliber player for many years to come. Now, this is my mock draft, but I want to know what you think. Will the Redskins consider Tua at number 2? Will the Redskins be able to get a good enough trade offer to trade down? Let's say they do have to pick at number 2. Do they pass on Chase Young? What do you think? Now tomorrow, Detroit Lions will be on the clock with the 3rd pick in the draft. I'll see you tomorrow.